Hello everyone and welcome. In this recording, instead of a usual tarot guidance, I would like to make a video sharing with you certain tips and guidances I personally received, of course in a channeled way, to prepare myself for this eclipse. This upcoming eclipse that we have either on the 19th or 20th of April, depending on where you are on the planet, and it's taking place at 59 degrees and 29 degrees and 50 minutes of the sign of Aries, so it is extremely karmic. Now, first of all, I would like to say that whatever it is that we do to prepare ourselves, we must not really ritualize it, because the ritual might go against the alchemical composition, so to speak, of the eclipse, because the alchemy, the specifics of it, the different elements joining together in harmony, or maybe not as harmoniously in other cases, well, if we respect them, if we respect the pattern, if we synchronize ourselves to it, it is going to benefit us all that much more. So the freedom of this moment, the freedom of this energy, because the reason why it is not meant to be all that much ritualistic, because the element of ritual brings out external knowledge, external influence, external methodology, perhaps a certain kind of mastery which we just inherited, but it is not born maybe out of the deepest core of our beings. And such an energetic new moon in the sign of Aries, the first breath, well, it is primordial energy. It cannot have any control. The other reason why a ritualistic approach is not really advised is because at the time of this eclipse, and just let me put on the asteroids, we have Jupiter conjunct meeting with planetoid Eris. And Eris is, let's just take her mythological symbolism. The golden apple of discord, but that discord is based on a dichotomous or paradoxal truth, but at the end of the day, it is truth. And that which makes it paradoxal is that in thought, in philosophy, the divine meets with something that may not exist divinely, if you know what I mean. Eris threw the golden apple into the crowd of gods celebrating at a wedding, and she only said, "For the fairest." And this, immediately caused the paradox to unfold. Because is there such a thing as fairness in the divine planes? And if such, then Eris just highlighted how the gods, divine beings themselves, were just masquerading, were being in a way untruthful, were actually weaving together the Maya, ritualizing a celebration. Now, within that ritual, they were not necessarily morally correct because Eris was included. So she took it upon herself to show the wholeness of creation, perhaps the deeper expression of the demiurge, why a wedding is ultimately just a masquerade, just a ritual. It lacks many times the substance. But the opposite of this is, of course, true at the same time, because the wedding is a symbolism that we present to the heavens to commemorate that which is we bind here on earth. So both of these dichotomous truths meet at the same time, and they create a new reality, or they bring on the most truthful expression of the reality that is, you know, being unfolded. And Jupiter expands all of this. Now, why is this very important and at an eclipse? Because something extraordinary truthful, something very, very specific to you, to your divine design, might want to show itself, might want to express itself, might want to give you its contribution. So Pluto in Aquarius does immediately tell us that whatever deeper feelings, instinct, urges, and when I say urges, this is primal. An urge might be the most earthly, telluric expression of intuition, of something ultimately divine, but it needs to adjust itself on how it steers a telluric being. So urges are advised to be allowed a certain kind of freedom for us to behold them, feel them, and ask ourselves where this comes from, why. And this in itself is supported by Venus in the sign of Gemini at 10 degrees, because Gemini is the duality of understanding, and this brings to self-acceptance, the acceptance of it, the acceptance of the presence of the energy within us, and the acceptance of us allowing it to be born at the time of this eclipse. So I mentioned what is not all that much advice, a ritualistic approach, or too much external thought control, or at this time, even the great influence of our ancestors, because ritual is bestowed from them to us, is not all that much helpful, because Saturn, the ancestral energy in Pisces, is being dissolved in a way. So whatever may this eclipse brings forward, it is new and in a way change bringing, both for you and the ancestors alike, both present and past alike, and ultimately that's why it's vectoring into the future. Pluto and Pluto shows us this, the power that the future holds, power that eclipses everything ancestral. And Saturn is conjunct Fomalhaut, the star of alchemy and ancient wisdom, ancient knowledge, ancient alchemy, if you will. So it is very, very relevant at this moment that we incorporate this expression of Saturn well. We are we are invited to embody our deepest faith, absolutely, but not necessarily in a classic way. Pisces has no boundaries, Pisces has no border. Now, Pisces is the realm of miracles exactly because, as a water sign, it is rebellious, it is dichotomous. It does not wish to respect the rules and the laws which would prohibit miracles. Ultimately, miracle is when the laws of common sense or Newtonian laws or whatever, even the classic courses, the divine law, is briefly broken or made irrelevant. So Saturn in the sign of Pisces conjunct Fomalhaut supports this a lot. So we need to give this miraculous manifestation a certain kind of freedom. Now, what supports the eclipse very well is another expression of Saturn in Pisces, a bath, for example, a bath where you put a spiritual theme on it. You are the channeler, let's say. So basically, you are the one holding your own free ritual. As I said, we cannot ignore that your act will be a tiny bit ritualistic, but it's divinely inspired sheerly by the chaos, and this is important, the chaos of your inner forces. Basically, the inner lottery. What should I, for example, do with the water, energy and intent wise? You ask this question and the inner forces will answer. Some people will feel the calling to bless it. Other people will feel the calling to, for example, use salt. Salt is advised because Neptune is in the sign of Pisces. His wife Salasha, the symbol of salt and the healing, magical, even miraculous properties of salt, is in the sign of Aries. So that is important because Aries is the host of the eclipse. Salasha brings her contribution there. So some people will definitely opt for salt bath. For some people, it will be more like baptizing bath or shower or whatever. They will focus on the nurturing, baptizing, um, almost like divine recognition part of the voter and the ritual of the voter. Why? Because Aries is all that much about sovereignty and anointment, because Aries is the head. They will anoint themselves to their newest version and to their more Saturnian version, where in spirit, Saturn in the sign of Pisces, they will be much more committed to the spirit or their spirit or the spirit of what they're embodying. Now, other people still might use the element of water in a totally different way, where they will probably ingest, not the bath water, of course, but they will, they use this in the spirituals like program water. But as clichéic as this sounds, this is where this is very powerful right now. Because programming water is setting the seeds of intention. And that program is the fire that burns within us, the Aries energy, the inner fire, or the neurons that we have to light up, flare up, fire up when we program, because programming the water is not just a spiritual gesture or act, but it's also in a certain way energetic. We do need the thought of what we program into it, and of course then drinking it or whatever. So this is not under the light of the eclipse, of course, because this is pre-eclipse. On the eclipse there is not all that much we can or need to do other than observe. Contrary if your inner forces tell you that, but that's you personally. And also, and this is very very important, usually an eclipse is not a very good bedfellow with any intention setting, with any alteration, with any personal willful contribution. This Aries eclipse is an exception, but usually an eclipse is, don't temper with it, don't try to be smart, don't try to know better than the universe. In extreme cases, of course, some people will use this to have their, but that's extreme and they know the consequences, they know what they're doing. Or if for some people, some workers especially, the intention and the plan and what needed to be done comes from beyond the veil, that's not them, that's beyond the veil setting things up for itself. That's different, because chances are something is using the person as a portal. But for the rest of us who are just subjects of an eclipse, usually it's not advised to alter it, influence it, set intentions in any way, shape, and form. But as I said, this one is an exception. This one kind of has this written all over it. Why North Node in Taurus, squared by Pluto, we need to use the power that we have within our higher minds, our higher understanding. We need to see ourselves as a form of consciousness and detach a little bit from the lower expression of what it means to be a human being, Taurus, the lower expression of Taurus, the limitation, the basic misaligned beliefs. What is a basic misaligned belief that everyone has, including me, you, everyone? That the laws, the Newtonian laws of physics, are solid and real and they exist. Reality proves us this so very many times that we cannot help ourselves but believe it, yet we are believing something very, very false, alchemically, divinely, etc., etc., because there is no such a thing. There is just parameters that we accept to operate in. But if our acceptance becomes faith, then we have the concrete wall that will always be our prison in this incarnation. So yes, this is why for tribal people who genuinely don't live in society and have no connections, not the tribes who are already, what's that use word, industrialized, because there is such a thing. There are tribes for the public image, but really everyone goes to supermarkets and has smartwatches and stuff like, no, the real ones. For them, there is no such thing as the laws of physics, and you don't, and their lives don't even operate. They can beat reality, they can beat the odds, and sometimes odds beat them as well. Like, if a modern person would be observed sometimes the smallest details of the tribal life, and they would say, how did that kill the person, make the person sick? How did the person fall for it? How did they not figure it out? There is that, where it would seem ridiculous to our level of intelligence, us deciphering the laws of physics, the Newtonian laws, but us deciphering it was just us creating it, making it as solid as possible, as limiting as prison as possible. That's all we did, really. And that's all Uranus did, really. In When Uranus appeared in our collective consciousness in the 1700s, if I'm not mistaken. But it didn't necessarily do us a great favor for the present us, but then, of course, a massive favor. But where I want to go with this, but there is the other side of the tribes people, where if we would observe their lives and everything, there is all that which defies physical reality and blows our minds. Maybe they have their own internet, maybe they have their own communication, long distance communication, maybe they have everything that we have. We just do not have the senses, the refined senses to live in their dimension. Anyway, what does this have to do with the eclipse? That nothing is really set in stone. That's why such a power can change our realities in so very many ways. And one of the keys where this can be used by us personally is truly to allow urges to be felt, to be seen, to not to be. This is cast aside all judgment. Be one as much as you can, non-judgmental with yourself, even if for just that hour. And of course, how you do this in our alchemy is your own deal. Some breathwork, some walk in the park, some cleaning their house, but that's the autopilot inside doing all that. Other people, the candles, and other people will definitely invite the spirit of air through smoke into their lungs, and that will give them their own frequency of the setting of the seed of intention into the eclipse. Other people will definitely use more sensual ways. Other people will share it with their partners. Other people will meditate. Whatever it is that your being guides you to. Because that is also something that kind of needs to be free. What is not really allowed to be free is the level of, seriousness. Saturn in the sign of Pisces. This is where you're doing all of this to be outside of external influences, even ritual knowledge, to give your inner being the chance to singularize, to take this dead seriously, to, concentrate every fiber of your being into this, with leaving any doubts aside for later. Within that hour or whatever, you must be doubt free. Use Neptune in the sign of Pisces. If you watch someone's and I don't want to disrespect here Tolkien, but if his creation. Like, okay, channeling. Okay, I admit it. That's fine. But if his created artificial universe, you can spend so many hours and it delights you, then you can do the same and spend it in yours. Yours, you know? You don't need Tolkien. You need you, your inner child. Dream it. Allow yourself to just believe in that frame, window frame, that hour or whatever, that really you're doing this. And your singularizing will truly, you're not after the effect, you're after planting your seed into the cosmos. So being heard. That means you have to, and if I want to say shout, Taurus can be the voice, the throat. So shouting into the universe psychically, of course. Or who knows? Some people will actually do it physically, North Node in Taurus. Who knows? But that is one way. But for other people, use this Pluto, the scorpionic stinger. Insert your willpower into the universe. That's like a shout. But in order for it, you need to burn. You need to burn from within. You need to burn that desire of yours, or that the urge that goes hand in hand. So this is like the inner methodology that one can apply at this eclipse, how to place the seed intention of the universe. Now, something that's also really important is how we use the energy of the eclipse. And this is where there are two different groups. For some people, this eclipse gives them a rare opportunity to, and I don't want to use any fancy word here, but it's like the sickle, the scythe of Saturn. You cut something out from your life. That is the destructive nature. And eclipse, the light, the information, the source, the continuity, the electric flow is briefly blocked, eclipsed. It's cut off. What happens to electronic equipment, or even to us when we go under general anesthetic? Yes, it's time out. But this is where you use the power of this eclipse to time out something that you truly need to get rid from your life. Of course, the cleansing shower and self-acceptance, preparing yourself, having that very deep contemplation with yourself prior to this, that will reveal to you what that is. That will show you what you kind of need to do with the eclipse. For some people, it might be felt as a deep frustration, as a deep anger, as a deep I had enough, as a desperate cry to the divine, get this out, this. Now, this is your specific, a situation, an energy, a pattern, a habit, a person, a marriage, poverty, low self esteem, something. Because, anything goes really, because it's energetic energy. And get this is where they need to focus on, to get that out of their lives, to cut something out, to remove something. Because why? Maybe they are so full of life and ideas and dreams and everything positive, but bottled, locked, you know suffocated inside them, that all the eclipse needs to do is, cut away the chains or whatever that is, and then just open the bottle and boom, it's there. Everything that the person might need is there. For others still, it's not really this, because let's say we had South Node in Scorpio and eclipses in Scorpio, and yet to come another lunar one. Maybe that's all they done until this moment. Eliminate all, maybe they're crystal clear, clean, as white as snow, but there's nothing new. That kind of took a heavy toll on the creational energies. So that's why the urges, the primal, needs to be accessed. Because when someone done so much cord cutting work and cleansing work and inner operation, so to, for some people, actual operation, like on their physical bodies, that kind of took away all the strength of their being. How can they bring all the new, the excitedness, the love, the happiness, these feelings, the desire for one's happiness, the desire to be serene, or the desire to not be serene but in an adventurous way, everyone with their own dreams, their own needs. These are very important. These cannot be seen as selfish, hence non-judgmental. This is where it's just you and, the, let's say, the uterus of the universe. There cannot be any judgment. There cannot be as something as selflessness in this case, in an alchemical sense, because there is in that moment of time no other self, just the eternal self, the one self. Saturn in the sign of Pisces, Neptune in the sign of Pisces. So that's why selfishness cannot be judged and seen as such. Even if, let's say, your need is a material one, your spirit is looking after the material being that you are. It needs to cast its intention into the universe. If that's what you need, that's what you need. This is where zero, totally free of judgment. While for other people, this is something that they need to generate within themselves. Something, something on the list was never ever them, not in this life, not in other life. They don't embody something, they don't have something, not even in spirit. But the eclipse, send me that, a spark of that, a seed of that. Let me be able to tap into that just a tiny little bit. For example, people who are technology challenged, they don't have the skill, they don't have the love, they don't have anything. This eclipse can set them on a journey where this changes. Of course, it would be silly to use the eclipse just for this, but we can imagine that out there in the world there might be people for whom this is the missing link, or this is the blockage, that they cannot embrace technology or something very intensely Aquarian, but anything else within them is everything that the world needs. But this is the blockage. Neither it's the person's fault, neither the world's fault. But anyway, this is just an example. So either use the destructive, the more Eris expression of this energy, Jupiter conjuncting it, because it can truly trigger something fated, or bring the void, the darkness of the eclipse, the pure chaos, the abyssal power, to truly eliminate something from your life, to remove it. While for other people, it can even generate something that you specifically could not even dream up. But for this, you need exactly what the urge within you is guiding you towards. Not to follow any urge in this sense, but to understand it and then see what the divine element in it is and use it to complete the symbolism in your life, to invite its most divine expression. So, no, I do hope that this was useful. I do hope that you managed to understand a tiny little bit of this. And, last but not least, this is where all of us, Jupiter is the planet of justice, all of us need, besides of what I said, we need to set an intention for, whatever happens in our lives, something new is being created in that sense. So positive ultimately, to reverberate, to be shared with the collective. Our satisfaction, our sovereign expression to be shared collectively. So this is where we must extend the good that we're generating for ourselves to everyone, the wholeness of reality. So again, thank you so much for listening. I do hope that this was useful and helpful, and I'm wishing everyone a blessed eclipse. Until next time, bye for now.